You know how we all make up our own rules for collecting, whether it's going to be by scale or you're a completist or you're going to get everything that's ever been made for Doctor Doom? Well, one of the things about making rules is when it forces us as collectors to follow them. But they're our own rules. Have you ever bought an action figure that you didn't want, but you had to buy it because it fit your display and your rules? Let's explore that here on Spector Creative. Hey everyone, welcome back to Spector Creative, the only channel on the internet that you're watching right now. It is a pleasure to have you with us, and thank you for giving some of your time to talk toys and pop culture. Specifically, what I want to talk about today is, as adult collectors, lifelong adult collectors, however you want to say it, we tend to make up rules, right, for which figures we're going to buy. I mean, it helps not only on the wallet in determining, but it also helps us strategize and decide, what we're actually going to get, because there's just too much good stuff out there. And I mean, I'll share, I've talked about my rules like with Marvel Legends. I collect X-Men characters from like the early 90s and Spider-Man villains. With Star Wars, I collect 3 3/4 original trilogy, Black Series, whatever just speaks to me. And it's not really something I actively collect, but I probably have like 30 or 40 of them based on just like grabbing, ooh, that character looks cool, or $5 for an Imperial Guard at Big Lots, or Five and Below. Hell yeah! I remember picking up so many Black Series figures at Five and Below for $5. All right, neither here nor there. But that's the point. Is yeah. So we all make up rules. In fact, I remember in my early 20s when I was living with my two best friends post college before we all got married, we had all these rules for our action figure shelves, and we made up a rule that was one elf per shelf. I guess it was a spoof off of the Christmas idea, but so it's like you couldn't have Elrond and Galadriel on the same shelf. You had to separate them. I don't know why. Just that was funny. And I remember one of my friends had a collection of bald black badasses. So it was like Commander Cisco from Star Trek and Shaft and Mace Windu, and a lot of them were played by Samuel L. Jackson. But yeah, he had like all of these bald black badass guys with giant guns, and that was his whole shelf. So yeah, we like to theme our shelves. So what happens when a figure comes out that meets the requirements of your shelf but you don't really want it? What I'm talking about today specifically is the newly revealed Marvel Legends Hypno Hustler figure, a character I had never heard of until he got announced as a potential figure. So I thought I knew everything about Spider-Man. I got my first Spider-Man comic ever somewhere behind me. It was Spectacular Spider-Man number 100, the third appearance of Spot, and the big fight between Spot and Spider-Man. That's why Spot's such a big figure, or I'm such a fan of his. Still want a proper comic Marvel Legends, not the animated style. See, again, I collect comic style, not animated style. So when the animated Spot came out, even though I really wanted a Spot figure, I didn't buy it because the animated style isn't what I collect. I collect comic style. So that's a perfect example. So I'm still waiting for my Spot figure, even though there is a perfectly good 6-inch Spot figure, available if I wanted. So with Hypno Hustler, I have one of my collections of Spider-Man characters. I started just doing villains, but then as I started pumping out like Aunt May and Mary Jane and Gwen Stacy, they were just like making all these humans, JJJ, Peter Parker, now battle damaged Spider-Man. So yeah, I wound up then supplementing it with some of his kind of allies like Punisher and Ghost Rider and Darkhawk and Nova, Sleepwalker, Daredevil. So the shelf has evolved. But my original plan, which I laid out in writing in kind of the early 2000s, was I wrote out all the Spider-Man villains I wanted. I had a very specific sort of list. And right now there's only 2 left. Spot, as we just talked about, and Boomerang, who is needed to finish the Syndicate, the Sinister Syndicate from the Deadly Foes of Spider-Man. But over the years, there have been figures that have come out that I have purchased that have fit that all Spider-Man villains pre-90s that I've bought. So a perfect example would be Human Fly. I also never heard of Human Fly before he was made as a figure. And like I said, I thought I was this huge Spider-Man fan. But I guess when Human Fly is more of a 70s and I was reading in the 90s. So I did get Human Fly, which means that I was now getting characters I'd never heard of before, but if they were Spider-Man family of characters and they were from pre-90s, that checked off my requirement. So now here we have Hypno Hustler, who the reason he's getting a figure is because 3 years ago, there was a plan for Troy from Community was going to star and play the Hypno Hustler in a standalone movie, kind of like Craven and, I mean, the Spider-Verse movies, the ones that Sony, blew up and then trashed. So before Craven came out and destroyed the Sony Spider-Verse, the plan was that Donald Glover was, I'm sorry, no, Danny Glover. Donald Glover is a completely different actor altogether. Was going to play the Hypno Hustler in a standalone movie without Spider-Man. And so because of that, that was announced 3 years ago. Oh, what's on a 3-year cadence? What have I talked about? Action figure planning. So if you rewind to 2022, when this movie was announced, that's when they're planning the late 2025, early 2026 wave. And lo and behold, Hypno Hustler's in it. The movie never happened, but, much like the Toy Biz Deathlock or the Brother Voodoo Marvel Legends figure, the first one from the Doctor Strange wave, figures all the time get made because there's a movie that maybe alludes to the character, or maybe they were going to appear in it, but then they get canceled, or they're going to make a movie like they were with Deathlock back in the Toy Biz days, which is why Deathlock was in that Galactus Build-A-Figure wave, but then his movie never happened. Not Scream. Oh, God, why am I blanking? The Spider-Man villain, the Carnage's girlfriend. Screech. Screech, is that right? Or is that the eagle from He-Man? She was in the second Venom Carnage movie. So she had a comic-styled figure released about the same time. They didn't do the movie-based because, one, that would have required more development, and two, they weren't actually doing Sony Spider-Verse characters at that time because of contracts and all that. And yeah, I know there's a Venom figure out there that is, but go with me on this. So yeah, perfect example. How she got a figure, and now Hypno Hustler is getting a figure for a movie that never happened. So the reason I bring this up is I'm going to be buying a Hypno Hustler figure because he is a pre-90s Spider-Man villain. Like I didn't get Hallows Eve, who is a post-90s Spider-Man villain, or any of the Spider-Verse characters. I don't collect Spider-Verse because that's sort of post-92. And that was when that was sort of the core of my reading Spider-Man, like the McFarlane and Eric Larson and Mark Bagley early run. So I will be buying a Hypno Hustler, but I don't own a single Miles Morales or a single Spider-Gwen or Ghost Spider because I collect all Spider-Man villains from the 90s back. And even though I'd never heard of him before, he's going to wind up on my shelf. I'm going to spend, almost $30 on a figure I don't want because I feel like if I don't get him, there's going to be a hole in my collection. And I'm always going to be thinking, should I have gotten Hypno Hustler? And nobody wants, we all hate that, right? Just like that hole and thinking about it. So I would like to know, have you guys faced this? Have you bought figures you didn't want, but you needed to complete a collection or shelf? Let me know, because I think this would be a really interesting discussion in the comments. I'm always reading the comments, even if I can't respond to everyone, but I love you all, and I thank you for them, and I thank you for your support, for liking, sharing, subscribing, all that stuff. It really, really does help. Hail the algorithm, and I'll see you guys in the next video.